All right, as you make your way in, definitely say hello. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Say hi. If you're new to the channel, my name is Princella. I am a new Seattle-based flight attendant working with a major US airline company. Also, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. All right. Just gonna give it a second just to make sure I can be seen and I can be heard, because we're not here to play, okay? Once again, as you come in, go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section below. Say hello. Don't stalk us, okay? Don't stalk us. Definitely say hello. I know it's definitely impromptu. I know it's impromptu. I know it's very impromptu, but your girl had to come through with a video because we've had a few things happen this past few days, okay? So come in and let's chit chat. As you get yourself in, just make sure you drop a comment in the comment section below. I can't speak today. But yes, we're going to be we're going to be talking about a few things today. First of all, it will be my first real medical emergency, and then also going through CQ flight attendant training as well. So I had to make sure that I came through and shared my experience with you all, because it's not that bad though. It's not that bad. Okay, so we're on camera. Once again, if you're new, my name is Princella. I am a new Seattle-based flight attendant working with a major US airline company. And as you can see in the live's title or the thumbnail, I will be talking about my first real medical emergency. I say real emergency because I've had one happen, but comparing this one to that one, I would say this is actually my very first real emergency, the real deal, life or death situation. And then also CQ flight attendant training, as I mentioned in my September schedule reaction, I was scheduled to go for CQ, is continuous qualification for flight attendants. As flight attendants, we do get certified to be able to work on the aircraft, and CQ is a way where it's sort of like updating your qualifications, in the sense that you go through the same tests or assessments that you did during training, just to make sure that you're still good on them, essentially. So I did do mine in September as well. But before I move on, and while we wait for more people to join us, I will share that Daddy D's hiring. So those of you who are trying to apply, it's the time. The time is up right now. It is time to go and apply, okay? Daddy D is hiring, so if you want to apply, go ahead and apply. I think they opened up the hiring pool on the 7th of September, and I believe it's still open. Correct me if I am wrong, but it is definitely still open. So go ahead and apply, and just do whatever you need to do, because this is the time. Even if you didn't get it the first time, go ahead and put yourself out there. Don't get disappointed. Don't be discouraged. It is what it is. But I know this live is very much impromptu and unexpected, but as usual, when it happens, I have to come and share it. And here I am, okay? I am here. I am reporting live. All right, so moving on, let's start first. Once again, if you're coming in, go ahead and say hi, drop a comment in the comment section below. Don't stalk us. Also give the video a thumbs up, share the video, like the video, because it's such impromptu and not really planned, and I'm just coming to you all in the moment. The more you like the video, the more YouTube would alert other people that your girl is live and we're reporting live, okay? Thank you so much for joining the live. Just say hi in the comment section below. Also, moving on. All right, so the first agenda, which is my first real medical emergency, it is crazy. It was intense, and the funny thing is, not funny as in the situation was funny, but let me use this. The interesting thing was that I was off duty. I had been released. So let's backtrack, rewind. So your girl was peacefully minding her own business, working her chirps. Hey Tommy, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Yeah, so your girl was peacefully minding her business, right? I went to work. Honestly, during that week, I had worked several trips because of CQ and the fact that where it was scheduled or placed on my schedule, I had to be strategic with the flights or the trips that I worked in September because I wanted to make sure that I was maximizing my time just to increase my earning potential before I went for training, because I didn't know what was going to happen afterwards as well. So I decided to utilize the days that I had as much as possible, as effectively, as efficiently as possible. So I literally worked a domestic 3-day trip, and then the next day I did an Amsterdam trip, a 3-day Amsterdam trip. So they even eventually overlapped, which means I was working like 6 days straight because the 3-day trip domestic that I did, we had so many delays. So it ended up overlapping or eating into the day that I had to start my Amsterdam trip. But the good thing was that the Amsterdam trip started in the afternoon. The report time was well in the afternoon. So it wasn't really an issue. It wasn't a huge problem. So the point was that I had worked 6 days straight. Then I literally had just 1 day off. Then I had a new hire meeting, which was super long. It was like the entire day, followed by a turn. Like I said, I was trying to maximize my days. I didn't want to play around because I knew that CQ was going to take days off that I could work, but now I can't because of CQ. And for our CQ, when you're scheduled for it, you can't pick up a trip until 24 hours after. So it really takes up more days than you think. So that being said, I was like, you know what? No problem. Let me work 6 days, do my new hire meeting, do my 1-day trip, and then I get a day off. Then I go for CQ, then I get 3 days off. So it's no big deal, right? So I was already stressed during that week, and I had already done so much. So I was just looking forward to just going home and just minding my business. So with that being said, I did the turn. A turn is when you leave in the morning, you go, you work a trip, a flight, you work another flight right back, and then you come back home. So it's like you're working a 9 to 5. The only difference is that you're flying flights essentially. And it's dark in here. Oh my God. Is it me or is it dark in here? I don't know what's going on. But the whole point is that I did my turn. Everything was peaceful. Hello, Francis. Thank you so much for joining. So I did my turn. Everything was very fine. The crew were amazing. We gelled really well. The crew members actually had this lady that I saw on my way back from training. So the flight that I took after I was done with flight attendant graduation, the flight attendant that served me during that flight was actually part of the crew members that I work with on this trip. So it was very like a surreal moment. It was really cool. We were pretty good. We worked really well together. Everything was good. So let's just start off by saying that the medical emergency did not happen on my flight. It didn't. It did not. Honestly, I'm not even sure if that passenger was a passenger on my flight, because sometimes once we get off the plane, we don't recognize anybody. People recognize us, but we don't recognize anybody. So the flight ended. We were walking, we were exiting the airport. Remember, I'm Seattle based, so I was at SeaTac Airport, and I was leaving the airport with my crew members, and I even met a friend of mine. I worked a flight with her when I was on reserve, and we bonded, and now we're friends. Oh no. So we were leaving the airport. We get to the parking lot. Immediately we make a right turn to go to the employee pickup location. We saw a gentleman on the floor. So we were just walking, laughing, minding our business, and the passenger runs up to us saying that, hey, this person just, it's funny. First of all, it's funny that they came to us. Not funny as in the situation was funny, but it's interesting that they saw us in uniform, and their initial attempt or their initial thought was, let's go to these flight attendants, let's ask them for help. So it was a couple. It was this gentleman and his wife, and then the husband came up to us. So I was behind our lead flight attendant for the trip that we just did, and he came up to her and was like, hey, he just fell. So then we run over, like literally our training just kicks in. Like it felt like I was on a flight and this was happening, honestly. So he comes to us, he's telling us that he's fainted, he just collapsed. They don't know, he's not with anybody, he's by himself. And then the wife is calling the cops, she's on the phone. So then the lead approaches the body. I get there, I leave my bag for my friend that I met at the airport. I was like, watch over my back. So then we run over. The lead gets to the body. I'm standing, pulling his leg, trying to straighten the body up. And then immediately we're like, start compressions. Like it was so automatic. And I'm actually sharing this experience because I know, at least for me, when I was in training, when we're going through CPR or emergency medical situations training and stuff like that, in the moment I felt like, will I be able to handle this? Would I be able to react the way I'm supposed to react when these emergency or medical emergencies happen? And see that happen, to see the like, he was literally on the floor and he could not breathe. He was not breathing, y'all. Like that, I've worked in the medical field, but not in the emergency side of a hospital. I was in the lab, so I was taking samples and registering people and setting people up for lab checks and stuff like that. So to see this happen was crazy. And he was gone. Like his eyes were open, like fully open, but he was not breathing, he was not speaking. So immediately we got there, the first thing I said, and then the lead said it afterwards, was like, hey, let's start compressions. Let's do compressions. So then the issue was who does compressions. He was a very big man and our lead was very petite, and me, I wasn't by his chest to go in right away. So luckily the passenger that approached us was right next to him, and he was a much stronger, a bigger guy too. So we're like, you know what? Start compressions. Immediately training kicked in. Oh my God. Like it felt like a movie. And I'm smiling, not because it was a funny situation, y'all, like not at all, but I'm just so amazed and surprised of how effective our flight attendant training is and how quickly we all jumped into action. Like we all started doing what we're supposed to do. We yelled, start compressions. We instructed the passenger start compressions. He was a stronger guy, he started. So all I noticed was that, so initially when we approached the body, in the moment, the passenger was telling us that he just felt and he couldn't breathe and his eyes were open. He wasn't speaking. So we're trying to get him to talk and he wasn't saying anything. Immediately, I noticed his face turning purple. Like he turned purple. Like he was turning purple. This individual was literally choking in that moment by himself. No family, no friends, nobody knew him but the passenger, the couple that we met next to him. And before I move on, I will want to say that, like, you never know when your last days will be. You never know what will happen to you. And to actually notice people just walking by with no care or concern at all, that surprised me. Because where I'm from, if something like this was going on, people will gather around trying to figure out what they could do to help. But in that moment, at that airport, at that parking lot, it was just so crazy to see people just walking by, no concern, no interest, nothing at all. Thankfully, we had those two passengers that actually noticed the gentleman go down, that actually noticed that, hey, something was wrong, that actually noticed that, hey, these flight attendants are coming up. They work at the airport, because everybody assumes that if you're in uniform and you're a flight attendant, you work at the airport. So whatever it is, that's besides the point, but coming up to us, trying to get us to help. So immediately we approached the body. I noticed that he was turning purple. And the funny thing was that, which I feel would happen to you when you find yourself in the moment, is you say everything out loud. I don't know what was going on, but everything I was seeing, I was saying it. For whatever reason, I guess my mind or whatever reaction I was having was forcing me to say what I was seeing so that other people could react in the moment as well. So, hey y'all, hey everybody, yes, I had my first real medical. Yes, there's a lot going on. Hey Vernell, hey Shario, nice to meet you guys. Welcome in. So so I started yelling. So I got there, I was like, he's turning purple, start compressions, he's turning purple. And gradually it was getting darker and darker. He was to see it happen, it was just too much going on. Like, it was a lot. But the fact that I was yelling everything that was happening, I was like, he's turning purple, start compressions. He's turning purple, start compressions. The passenger starts the compressions, very, very aggressive. Like, literally, we're cracking ribs at this point. And then we noticed that So then immediately I yelled that he was turning purple and start compressions. The passenger immediately jumped into compressions. He was super helpful. Like, I wish I knew who he was, but he was so effective that, like, he deserves a medal. Like, get that gentleman his prize, because he just went in cracking ribs, and thankfully he knew how to do compressions and understood what was going on. So he starts the compressions. Immediately I'm like, get the AED. I'm yelling. Yo, I'm not laughing because this was funny. I'm just laughing because in the moment it felt like I was acting. It felt like it was a movie, like, honestly. And I started yelling. So after I yelled that he was turning purple, let's start compressions, I was like, get the AED, get the AED. So I start running to get the AED. And then the third crew member that was with us also ran to the airport. So I'm searching the parking lot. She's searching the airport for the AED. So where I got to, I went to what I saw, or the emergency equipment box that I saw, was actually for medical and earthquake. So it's so funny because in the moment, honestly, our training kicks in the sense that you know what to do. But I think for a brief moment, I blacked out in the sense that I went to the emergency box, and typically I expected the AEDs are easy. You just open and you grab. However, it's set up on the wall. You just grab it or you just take it out, right? So I get to the emergency equipment box for earthquake and medical, but it's locked. But the funny thing was that in that moment, I didn't even notice that there was a key in the glass next to it. That was how blacked out I was. Like, I was immediately turned on. I was ready to go. Our training kicked in. Get the AED, get the medical equipment. One person ran. I didn't even know that I was shouting all that. So immediately I ran to that box. It was locked. I was like, it's locked. Where's the key? Where's the key? I come back. The gentleman is still doing compression. So immediately I came back without getting the AED, not knowing one of my other crew members had gone to the airport to go grab it after I yelled it. So she was also looking for one. So when I came back, the compressions were being very effective. And I'm telling you, y'all, it works. Like, that CPR, like those compressions, if you do it appropriately, it works. Because I visibly saw this gentleman turn purple, like literally turn purple. And I came back. The CPR was going on. He started coughing and literally saying, hey, I'm okay. Like, he started to speak to say that he's breathing now, he's okay. So then we turn him over to his side so he can breathe better, or whatever is in his airway could come out. And then we turn him to the side. Then he starts turning purple again. He couldn't breathe anymore again. So then we had to lay him back flat, pull him downwards just to create more room and more space, and give more compression. So immediately I saw that, I knew that we needed to get the AED. We need to get the AED. If there are shocks required, we need to make sure that we give this person what he needs, or he is going to die. Like, he's going to choke to death right in front of us, like literally. So I ran back to the box. By that time, the airport security had approached. So I ran back to the box with one of the security guys to go open the box. That was when I actually noticed the key on the wall, but then it was covered. So I had to break it or do something to pull it out. And my shoe is rubber. I don't have anything I can break it with. But I was literally running in my heels. And once again, people passing by like it's nobody's business. Like, it was so concerning and alarming that nobody was concerned enough to figure out why I was running, why we were yelling or trying to figure out what was going on with this person. And it was crazy. And in that moment, I was like, I don't want this to be me. I do not want this to be me. But you never know when it's going to happen. So then when I went back with the security person to check the medical box, we couldn't get it open. His keys were not working. By the time I came back, not knowing, the third crew member that heard me yelling, get the AED, had gotten an AED from the airport. So she brought that. More security people had arrived. They started to put the pads on the person. I think I saw him get shocked twice. So the AED prompted that he gets shocked twice. And it's funny because we go through flight attendant training, where we go through all this CPR or this medical training. Some people don't take it seriously. They just want to get through, pass and go. But to see that our training aligned with the training that the security people had received and even the medic people had received it was a beautiful sight to see. But it's funny, it's interesting because immediately I got there, noticed the person could not breathe. Initially, when we're in training, we're thought, like literally, to check for breathing. And for me, even though I wasn't by the individual, the body, like I wasn't physically like by his nose or mouth or anything to check for breathing, I could visibly see that he was changing color and he was turning purple. So immediately we started compressions. It was effective. It was hard and fast, and he started to breathe. He started to talk. He was like, I'm okay. We turned him to his side. Then he goes down again and then starts to turn purple again. And then we continue with the CPR. By that time, my coworker had gotten the AED, and another security guy from the airport had gotten an AED. We put it on him. He got shocked twice before. So what we were trying, the whole goal in that moment was that we were trying to sustain him and keep him at least alive long enough for the paramedics to show up and do whatever they need to do, because they would have more equipment, among other things, to take care of him. But by the time I walked away from it, they were still giving him compressions because he was going on and off. Like, it would shock him, and then we would continue with CPR. I think he needed air, so I think they started to give him air. They got the little oxygen thing to pump into his lungs, because although the CPR was effective and his airway was clearing up and his heart was doing what it needed to do at some point, he could not do it by himself. So they needed to give him oxygen, like literally. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And in that moment also, I appreciated and recognized the need for ABPs, which are like able-bodied persons, because it was a bigger gentleman. These are my hands. Like, I can do something, but it was a big man. And I can't imagine. And my lead she was petite. She was a very small lady. So I don't know what we could have done with our hand with a big man like that. I mean, we could try, but it would have been draining and exhausting to the extent that we might not be able to do it as hard and as fast and as consistently as we could. So I was so thankful to have that passenger there, who was a much bigger person too. So he was able to do it to the extent that it resuscitated him. He came back alive and then started talking, then went back down again. But he was super, super helpful. And the fact that they didn't walk away, because they could have walked away. They could have just said, hey, he just collapsed, and just walk away. But he stayed. The wife was calling the cops. He was doing CPR. So y'all, that's what happened to me. I was minding my own business. I was minding my own business. I was done with work. I had a very long week, only for me to get this medical situation. But I was also so thankful for the training that I received, the flight attendant training, because it was effective. It was effective, and immediately it happened. I was like, hey, he's turning purple. Give him compressions. Where's the AED? Where's the AED? So I didn't even know that I was yelling these things out. So later on, when I was talking to my crew member, and she was like, yeah, she got the AED because she heard me yelling, get the AED. So I could have quietly just ran looking for the AED. But I would say it was effective, me yelling it out or yelling the things that needed to get done, because then even if I'm not able to do it, somebody else can do it, or we can both do it, you know? So it was interesting. And our training kicked in just like that. Like, everything was just flowing right away. Let me just check the comments real quick. I know I was in my zone in the moment because it was just a lot. Yes, Tammy, push hard and fast. It's very, very effective. If you do it correctly, you will save a life for sure. Hello, Chrissy. Chris Love. Oh, I believe you were in training. Are you on the line now, Chris? I believe the last time you were in my live, you were in training. I think you were in like week 4 or so, or 5 or something like that. Vernell, his heart valves were blocked in his heart. Yeah, because it was so scary and it was crazy. And yes, Tammy, very, very sad to think that you're by yourself, you're alone, and you have no family or friends, and your life is literally in the hands of strangers. Like, that was crazy and very, very scary. Vernell says, yes, his valves were blocked so bad. Yes, exactly. Tammy, you more than likely saved him. Great job. Yeah, thank you so much. Like, I can't imagine, and it really shows the need. And I know when you're going through flight attendant training, we have this part of training where we're given scenarios that we're supposed to like act out in terms like medical. The scenario can be medical, safety issue, or it's something related to things like this, and you're given different scenarios. And to think that I personally never liked that part of training, because not because I didn't like what the intent of that part of training was, but I didn't like it because I saw a lot of people go through it and struggle to be successful and was traumatized from that experience. So because your success is dependent on how effective your crew members are able to put in their work or do what they're supposed to do. So I didn't like that because I didn't have control, essentially. But that was what happened during this moment. And in that moment, I realized the importance of that part of training, knowing that the company or the airline company is not expecting everybody to react and start doing stuff in case of emergencies or when emergencies happen. They know some people may freeze. They know some people may cry. They know some people may probably go hide somewhere or not try and get involved. They know all these things will happen. First of all, that's why it's not a one-person crew. It's minimum 3 or sometimes mostly 4 or more. So there's a reason why there's more of us, or there are more of us on that aircraft. And there's a reason why they say that the roles we play during moments like this are very fluid. In my case, I was assessing and I was a collector, and to an extent I was communicating as well. So I was doing 3 things at the same time. In as much as I was communicating to them, hey, this is what is happening, start compressions, it looks like he can't breathe, he's turning purple. I was also the collector. I went around trying to get emergency equipment or medical equipment so we can save this man's life, you know. And then in that moment also, even though there were 5 of us as crew walking out of the airport, 2 of us were on the body trying to figure out what we could do to help that guy. So then when I yelled, get the medical emergency, the AED to be specific, then the 3rd crew member actually went to look for that, you know. And then we had the others that were watching over our stuff and just watching around, making sure that we're safe. And because when you're providing first aid, you have to ensure that you're safe first before you can help the person that's in danger. So to have the other 2 people actually watch her things, watch her back, make sure everything was okay, ensuring that the wife was calling the cops. Are the cops coming? What's going on? So we all played an individual role to make everything successful, to hold, like, to at least sustain his life before the paramedics showed up. And they were pretty effective too. They showed up, they brought a cover, like a blind, covered the whole scene so people could not see or take videos. And then also they jumped to it, they dragged him, they pulled, they just went straight into action, you know. And it also shows that at least this country, to a large extent, has things set up to make sure that, hey, if you're in times of, like, when you're in need of help, there's support, or that assistance can be given to you as well. So we made it work. But it was a lot. Like, in the moment, like, I needed to share this. Like, when it happens to you the first time, you can't, like, you don't know how to feel. Like, it was just an interesting feeling to have, to know that my training kicked in. I wasn't even at work. I was done with work. I would argue that I was done with work, even though I was still in the airport. Technically, I don't work in the airport. So I was done with work. I was released. And to have that happen. So imagine having this happen on an aircraft, 2 very small space, very, very limited space to work with 200 people with you. It's definitely a lot. And to see that gentleman lying there, like, so helplessly, it was a lot. Tammy says, yes, saved his life. Vernell, you saved his life because you were yelling at commands. Exactly. So at the end of the day, you might not necessarily be the person that's, you might, because like I said, they don't expect everybody to jump into action right away. So knowing that the flight lead immediately went to the body, tried to see what was going on, and me standing and observing from the back, because we all can jump in. What if something is wrong? What if it's something more serious, you know? So watching her go close, being close, me being standing by his feet, just watching and observing, noticing that he was changing color, noticing that we needed compressions, and yelling it out. She yelling it out. The passenger just went right into action, started yelling, like started doing the compressions. I noticed he was still turning purple, and I kept yelling, he's turning purple, keep going. It's not funny, like, it's not funny, but just reliving the moment in my mind right now, it's like, you'd be surprised. Like, don't underestimate the power that you have. Ask anybody that's gone through this training, whether you're a flight attendant or not, like, because I also had like first aid training, because when I was in college I was part of the first aid committee or group or whatever, so I had CPR training. But I feel the training that I had when I went through flight attendant training was the most effective, because I knew what to do, what equipment we needed, and what we needed to do to at least wake him up, like bring him back to life, sustain him, keep him hanging on until we get real medical professionals to help. So to yell those commands, those instructions, and like I said, some people might not act right away, but based on what you say, if they're listening to you, they would react like the person who went to get the medical equipment. Assuming I didn't yell that out, we wouldn't have had that medical equipment when we needed it, because where I went to, I didn't get any. It was locked. But then where she went to, she actually got one, and that was what we used. And I think it administered, because it's automated, so it checks the heart rhythm of the person, and then when it feels that there's no pulse, it would then instruct and shock the body just to try and get the heart to come back. So it shocked him twice, because he kept going in and out of it. So because it was weird, like to hear the person speak and then also to go back out again. It was a very interesting scenes. But kudos to doctors and nurses out there, or anybody in the medical field. Trust me, yeah, I see why you earn the big bucks, because it is crazy. You saved his life because you were yelling out commands. Hi, Holly. Oh, hi. Oh my God. Yeah, say hi to Holly. I know her. Like, I worked with her. Oh my God. Yeah, hi. Yeah, how awesome you were able to move to, yes, autopilot. Trust me, it was like I tuned out, saved the person. The goal was to just save him, honestly. And it's also interesting, like I said earlier, to see people just pass by and not offer any assistance at all, and just walk away and not even care about what was going on. So that's very scary to notice. That's great to hear you were able to save his life. Renelle says, you have to look at your passengers as one of your family members. Yep. You will want someone to save your family member's life if they had a problem when they were flying by themselves. Yep. And then Shira said, I'm definitely going to take that part of training seriously. Please do. Please do. And I actually enjoyed that part of training, like the CPR, the medical portion, because I knew that it's beyond me working. Like this situation that happened, for example, I was not at work. I was done with work. I was going home. It literally happened at the parking lot. So I was not on duty, but because of the training that I had received for my work, it made it possible for me to offer some assistance to this gentleman, or at least direct people on what to do. So I was loud and yelling and running, but it was effective and it was helpful. So, and the fact that my crew member gave me feedback telling me that, hey, because you yelled, get this medical emergency equipment, and you were specific on what equipment to get, I knew what to get when I was running away into the airport. So that was helpful too. So you never know what role you're going to play. You might be that person that ends up taking instructions from another person because you don't know what to do, or you might be the person that's actually giving the instructions, or you might be the person that's reporting or communicating what's going on. So you never know what role you're going to play. That's why ultimately they train you in everything and make it clear that these roles are very fluid. So just keep that in mind. And also, if you're in flight attendant training right now and you're concerned or worried about your ability to perform these duties effectively, I tell you, as long as you pay attention during training and you take it seriously, when these things happen, you would go into autopilot. Like it would just happen. You would just start reacting immediately. And that's why training feels like you're being conditioned in a way, because they want you to be conditioned such that even if subconsciously you're set up to react when you see these things happen right away. So keep that in mind. More comments here. Loving your content. Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Tammy said, thank you for sharing. Head into bonfire. Well, have fun, Tammy. Priscilla, you gotta get a double blessing from God. Fingers crossed, gotta save a life, one life at a time. And Renelle says, and they should have the medical equipment at every entrance coming into the airport. I think they do. I think I saw one near the elevator, but it was because I expected that every point in there, in the parking lot would have it, or every elevator park, or every build. I don't know how to put it, but they did have it, but it was actually in the airport. I think they had to go to the third floor to get it. But in the moment, sometimes, because there was a key next to box that I went to, but like I had blacked out for a moment that I didn't even notice a key was locked up in that little thing there. But I later on, when I even found out, I didn't want to break it open also because it's specifically or mainly for earthquake. So I didn't want to open something that potentially might not even have an AED in it, because AEDs are usually very visible. They are usually in, like, even near elevators, for example, or in hallways of buildings. So they're visible, such that worst case scenario, when you pick it up, the alarm will sound, but it's not under lockdown because of how vital and critical it is. So usually those things are not in lockdown. So when I noticed this was locked, I figured that it's actually serves a different purpose. Even if it has medical equipment in there, the primary goal of that box over there was for earthquake. That's why it's locked, because AEDs are not locked. They're usually very open. You just open, if it's a box or a glass or whatever, you open it, and worst case scenario, an alarm is going to sound to alert security that somebody has grabbed it, and then but you can still grab it. It's not a lock and key. So when I noticed this was lock and key, I was like, okay, maybe it's not for that. But luckily, because I yelled it out, my other coworker was able to grab it. So yes, medics came in, and then they took over. They covered and asked us questions. The police asked for statements and everything, and then that was it. So that's how I ended my my one day. And this actually is a good segue into my next topic, which is my CQ flight attendant training, because I had CQ the day after that day. So it was funny that I just experienced this medical emergency, and a day or two later, I was going to get recertified for the same training that I needed to save that person's life in that moment. So when I went to training, I had a whole different perspective for training CQ, because when I actually saw in my September schedule reaction video, I was not looking forward to CQ because I just came out of training, and it was traumatizing. Okay, it was a lot. So when this happened, and to go to CQ afterwards, my perspective or outlook on CQ was totally different. I was more welcoming. I was more ready than ever to go. And as part of CQ, you do the CPR training again. So you do go through that training again. You do get recertified again. And to have that happen, like, I had a whole different level of appreciation for it. It was worth it. Like, it's take training seriously, even when it comes to arming your doors, disarming your doors, how to work the slides, all that good stuff, like the evacuation commands and drills and everything. It's there for a reason, and I promise you, when you're in that moment, when you experience that, you would have a greater appreciation for that training for sure. So yes, that's how I had my first real medical experience. I do have a video where I'm going to talk about another experience that I had, but I say this is the first and real one because this was the actual, like, life or death situation. Like, hey, it's either you're doing compressions to save this person's life or he's dying right now. So this was more serious, like literally life-threatening. And then I went for CQ afterwards. CQ was good. If those of you who are trying to become flight attendants, as usual, when you go through your flight attendant training and you're on the line, 6 months from when you get on the line, you do have to go for continuous qualification. It's you just getting like recertified again for the certifications that you have to do your flight attendant duties and responsibilities on the aircraft. And as I've always said, we are there to serve cookies and pretzels and Coke and drinks and all that good stuff, but our primary goal as flight attendants is safety reasons, like the medical situation that I had. Imagine if that was you. The expectation is that we do whatever we can to sustain your life until we get medical assistance, until we divert to a different airport and land, or until we get to the gate, wherever we are in the air or in the flight process. So imagine if your flight attendants are not trained properly, then essentially your life is over at that point because you don't have well-trained people to take care of you. Fine, we can count on medical professionals to be on our flight, among other things, but our training is such that we do not need them unless we have, like, our training is such that we shouldn't need their assistance unless it's like well over whatever it is first aid that we can offer. So that's how our training is now being set up, you know? So think about that. But CQ was great. CQ was great. It wasn't bad at all. I actually enjoyed it, especially because of the situation that I had. So to go through that medical situation that I had right before CQ gave me a greater appreciation for CQ for sure. So I really enjoyed CQ. You do flight there. For me, I don't live at the location where the CQ is held. So I had to fly there, so I flew in on Sunday, and I went to the Salt Lake City one. We have one in Salt Lake City and then also Atlanta. I went to the Salt Lake City one, and I was there overnight. I went for CQ. It was almost the whole day, but you go through your doors, you go through your medical, you do emergencies and everything, and it was pretty chill. So if you're wondering how it is, it's not that scary, it's not that bad. Just make sure that whatever aircrafts you haven't flown in a while, you refresh your memory on it. Make sure that you're well abreast with like your commands and evacuations and the drills and all that good stuff, just to prepare. It's the same thing. It's just that for some people, they haven't done this recertification in like 18 months. So it's, you just have to, and then some of these things, like the things that you're going to be assessed on are things that don't happen on a normal day when you're doing your job. So that's what makes it feel a bit uncomfortable or out of the norm, because we're not going to work expecting emergencies to happen every single day, or we're not going to work dealing with emergencies or medical emergencies every single day. So that's why they have to do these recertifications, to make sure that when it happens, you're ready, you're up to date, and you can do what you need to do. So yeah, training was effective. CQ was great. I'm done with CQ. So the next time I go will be in the next 18 months. Let me know if you guys have any questions though. But yes, this is my story time, y'all. My first real medical emergency. It wasn't scary. It wasn't scary. How did I, like, in the moment, I don't even know how the only thing I felt or knew in the moment was I needed to do whatever I could to help save this man's life. I wasn't scared. I wasn't concerned. Like, it wasn't scary, honestly. It wasn't. Maybe it's just me, but I wasn't scared. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't sad. I don't know, what emotion did I feel. I'm not really sure, but I wasn't scared though. I wasn't scared, and I did not freeze. I was just ready to act. I was like, what we need to do whatever we need to do, because he's not dying right now. Like, we need to do whatever we could save him. So yeah, in the moment, it wasn't scary. It wasn't scary at all. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. But it was an interesting experience for sure. And I just thought I'd share with you all. As usual, I'm here to share my experience with you all. So here we are. Your girl has experienced her first medical, and if you're watching the playback, like, yeah, you should drop a comment too. Drop a comment. Let me hear your thoughts. Have you ever had your own experience? What was your first medical emergency like? Let me know where it was, what happened. I want to know all the details. Let me refer to a few comments here. Vernell said, I'll get your own medical equipment and keep one in your bag. Yeah, the AEDs are quite bigger. That's a thing. And honestly, there are AEDs around. That's a good thing, because most companies, most buildings would have AEDs around. So you know you're going to get that for sure. But if you have like any special medications, or if you take certain medications or anything, or you do have like fainting spells and stuff like that, you can write it on you, tattoo it on your neck, your arm, have a note in your pocket, because we're trained to check for these things. So if, let's say you're diabetic, for example, and you have a tattoo or bracelet on, we're trained to check for those things to see if you should have some sort of medication on you that we should give to you. So if you have those markings or those indications on your body one way or the other, it's easy. We're checked to look out for those things. Like, medical professionals are checked to look out for those things as well. So that's a way to let people know that, hey, I do take this medication, it's on me, or whatever your situation is, we know what we're dealing with as well. So that's a way to let people know that, hey, this is what I have going on. So if you see me in this state, this is what you can do. Vanell said, you should have asked the officer for medical report, so you could have to seek with. Oh, okay. To say you just experienced something like that the day before training. Okay, that would have been cool. I didn't even think about that. It was a very scary situation, Sharis. Like, it was scary, but I wasn't scared. It was scary because, like, he's literally on, like, he could die. Like, he's turning purple. Like, I'd never seen anybody turn purple like that. Like, his entire face was turning purple. So he could not breathe. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, if he's turning purple, he's not breathing, oxygen is not flowing, God knows what other damage this is causing. So we weren't even sure what was happening. We thought he was getting stroke at first, but then when he started to move, all his body parts were moving. So we're like, okay, so that's not that. So then what is the issue? What's going on? But yeah, it was interesting. And it's funny because in that moment, I'm not a medical professional, but I'm still assessing him, trying to figure out what could be going on. We thought it was stroke, but now he's moving all his body parts, so then it can't be stroke. So then what is it? Is it a heart attack? Is it that he's choking? Like what exactly is happening? You're still trying to wrap your mind around what's going on, so at least you know what to do. But we're not trained to deal or diagnose any medical situation, but if you assess the condition of the person and you're able to tell that it's that's happening, it makes it easy, because then you know what actions you can take to help them out too. So yeah, that was it. Cheryl said, I wouldn't know how I would have handled that. Trust me, I didn't know how I was gonna handle it until it happened. But just know that whatever you're trained, whatever knowledge you have subconsciously, you have that information in your mind. And whether you know it or you can remember it right now or not, when something happens, or when the moment that causes you or requires you to put that knowledge to action or to play happens, you would do it. So right now you wouldn't know until it happens. Like when it happens, you would know what to do, especially when it's not something that you do like as your job. I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, so I don't do this every day, but in the moment I just knew what to ask for, what to look out for, and what to do. So yeah. Jaleisha, what happened? I just got you gotta watch the playback. Essentially, I had a medical emergency happen at the parking lot of the airport, and our flight attendant training just kicked in and we were successful. So yeah, that was it. Renelle, it could be your heart or could be seizures. That's true. It could be anything, and that's why we're not trained to diagnose any medical situation, but to just ensure that at least you can breathe. Once you can breathe, we know oxygen is flowing, your heart is beating the way it should, we can work from there. But if you're not breathing, then everything else we do would be unnecessary. We have to get you to breathe first, because if there's no oxygen flowing, organs can be dying, so it doesn't help us. So once we do the compressions, we get you breathing, we get you where we're supposed to get you, then we can figure out what's causing you to shut down the way you are. But yes, if you have any questions, please drop in the comment section below. This was my quick chit chat with you all. First real medical emergency and my CQ experience as well. Those of you who are going to be watching the playback, kindly drop a comment in the comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up, share the video. But any questions, final thoughts before I head out, because this was a lot and I just wanted to share with you all. All right, Janisha. I haven't been a flight attendant in 2 years. Not too long ago, my training came into action with the Yes, that's true. Like it won't go away. That is so cool. What happened though? What exactly happened? Did they need CPR? Did they faint? What was going on? I really want to know. But it does kick in. And this, for example, I was off duty. I was done with work, minding my own business, and it just happened. And immediately we just ran and started helping. It's crazy how fast it happens. It really is. It's interesting how everything starts to play out. And in the moment, you're doing whatever you can to do whatever you can to save this person's life. And it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sight. Not the situation happening, bad situation happening, but the fact that whatever training you have immediately kicks in, and your desire is just to save that person's life. So it's definitely interesting. That being said, we're at 48 minutes right now. I'm just gonna make it a 50 minutes, and then Renelle says hit the like button. Exactly, hit that like button, give the video a thumbs up. Okay, what's today? Today's Saturday, right? Today's Friday. So this is the beauty of the job. I'm going to add this real quick. This is the beauty of the job, because I am actually on duty right now. I am on reserve right now. I started my reserve days today, and I haven't been assigned anything today. So that's why I'm able to create content right now, because I'm on reserve and I haven't been assigned a trip. So then I might as well just come to you all and share my story time. But yes, hit that like button, share the video, give the video a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comment section below as well. Jaleisha says they fainted and I was just watching them and they started to slow down and I ran to catch them. Wow, that was really quick to react. The fact that you were observing them, paying attention to the changes that were happening, and being quick to run up to them to catch them, because when people fall down like that, they can hit their head. So it's not what was happening to them that might hurt them, but the fact that they might fall down and hit their head on the floor. And that's what happened to this gentleman. I'm just surprised that he didn't hit his head on the concrete or anything, and highly grateful that he didn't hit his head on the concrete, because he just collapsed. And I think he was standing next to the couple, so he was able to grab onto them, or they tried to grab him but just laid him down on the floor. But it's funny because they didn't know what to do. The wife was calling the cops, but then they came up to us. So once he came up to us, we went back to the body. We're like, you know what? He's turning purple. Start compressions. He can't breathe. Start compressions right away. So that's a really good thing that you did, like actually watching them slow down, watching the changes that were happening, and then you catching them in that moment, because that could have hurt them even more. The fall could have been worse than whatever it is that was happening to them. So that was really good. That's how I knew I'm ready to go back to flying. You're armed and ready. You should come back to the skies. Things are good now. COVID is over. Everything is good. Come back. Renelle said, was that person on your flight or not? Janisha said, no. What's happening at a lot of stuff goes on in the parking lot, Renelle. It's always in the parking lot. And this person that we saw, he had just come off a flight. So I'm not even sure if he was from my flight. I don't know, because most of the time we all end up at the airport anyway once we get off the plane, one way or the other. But yes, a lot goes on in the parking lot. A lot goes on in the parking lot. And it's so scary. Like, for me in that moment, the fact that people were just walking away, like, aside from the flight attendants that I was working with and then the passengers that approached us, nobody else came around to figure out what was going on or to help us. Like, it was interesting to see us running all over the airport, yelling stuff, and nobody came around to say, hey, what's going on? Like, what's going on? Do you guys need help? Like, what's happening? Nobody did. People were just passing by and just going. And in my mind, I was like, what if we didn't show up? What if it was just that couple and they didn't know what to do? Because when we showed up, we started directing them on what to do. But like, in that moment, like, what would happen to this gentleman? Like, he was by himself. And it was scary in the like what was going on, to see that people were just not doing anything. It was just this good two people that were willing to actually spend their time. Because what if they had a flight that they were going to miss? You know, they could have just walked away and just left, because they don't want to miss their flight. They don't know you. They don't owe you anything. And to see that nobody else came around to help, if it wasn't for the medical people, the airport security that showed up, and then also the paramedics that showed up, then what happens, you know? So it was interesting to see the system in the world that we live in, knowing that people would just watch people just go down, and if you're fortunate, you would get these two people that would help you. So yeah, that was interesting. Vernell said, work when you're not at work. Yes, I know, right? Off clock, like, run me my money. All right, y'all. I've been here for 52 minutes. One last. Okay. Vernell has a question. That is a question. If you see a person about to fall and it's only you, how do you approach the body without hurting yourself? That's the thing. First aid training would require you to assess the situation first. Let's say, for example, I am swimming somewhere or whatever, or I'm at the shore of a beach and I'm the only person at shore, and I see you drowning. Assessing the situation in the moment is, if I can't swim, or I know I can't swim that deep, I can't come and save you. The only thing I can do in that moment to give you first aid is to go call for help. That's all I can do, because if I jump in trying to save you, I'm gonna die, you're gonna die, we're all going to drown. So assessing the situation first is just checking to see if there's anything that can harm you. Let's say you're walking by on the sidewalk of a street and you see somebody trying to cross the street and they faint and they fall down, like in the middle of the road. Before you approach to go help them, check and see if there are any cars coming. If you have to stop cars or block cars from hitting you, you have to do that first, because if you just run to the middle of the street to go and help that person, cars may run you over. So that's where assessing the situation comes in, because in as much as you really you understand how critical it is to help that person in that moment, you also have to ensure your safety first and ultimately their safety. Because like the middle of the street scenario, for example, if somebody collapses in the middle of the street and you just run to the middle of the street to help the person, people driving might not see you. They might run you over. So you have to figure out a way to block, a way to stop cars. If you have to get other people around to help you stop the cars or try and signal or do whatever, or help you quickly drag the person off the street, then you do that. But make sure you assess the situation first to make sure that you're safe before you jump in to help, because if you hurt yourself in the process, then now we have 2 people down, and that doesn't help anybody. So yeah. God put you at the right place at the right. Trust me, it was like it felt like a movie, because we were just minding our business, like literally having a good chat, just walking, going back home, and bam, all the 5 of us got hit. But the gentleman came to us, and that's the other thing with the job that we do, the fact that we were in uniform, and he ran to us because there were other people around. He could have gone to anybody, but he ran to us because he saw us in uniform and knew that we were flight attendants, and possibly maybe knew that we were trained for this, or thought we worked at the airport, because everybody thinks we work at the airport. So so he just came up to us. But yeah, that's what happened, y'all. That was how I ended my week of flying back to back, and before I went for CQ training. Yeah, that was it. Any more questions before I head out? Once again, if you're watching the playback, leave a comment in the comment section below. Share your experience with me. I want to know, what was your first medical experience emergency like? And also, if you're flight attendant, have you gone for CQ yet? How did it go? Did you appreciate CQ better coming right out of flight attendant training and having to go back? And because the reason why I asked that question is because when you're in training, there's no context for what you're being trained on. But once you get on the line and you see things happen, like I have a friend who had several medical emergencies happen within the first 21 days of flying. So somebody like this, Scott, if you watch this, I would want to know what his perspective is now, or his level of appreciation for CQ, flight attendant training, after doing training, going on the line for a short period of time and having to go back to get recertified. I really want to know how your appreciation or your understanding or your level of appreciation for this training is right now, or was for you. Shario says, I totally agree with Renelle. Yes, it is. So sometimes you never know where you find yourself, but you might be that person that is standing between somebody and them living in that moment. So shout out to the security at the airport too. They showed up real quickly and went straight to work. They were trained too. They were effectively trained, because immediately they showed up, they literally came with an AED. Once they heard the emergency, the first security guy that showed up with the AED as well. But we already got one because the flight attendant got it. So shout out to the Seattle airport security as well. They kicked in right away, started with the compressions, they took over, and then immediately they showed up. The paramedics also showed up, and bam, they went straight to work. So yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to say the least. And if you're worried about your training kicking in, it will kick in. It will kick in right away. Don't be perturbed. Don't be scared. You would know what to do when it happens, for sure. But that being said, thank you all so much for showing up. I appreciate you all for coming through for your girl. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Support me, and also share the video. Give the video a thumbs up. Once again, if you're watching the playback, drop a comment in the comment section below, and I will see you all in my next video. Watch out for my schedule reaction video for the month of October as well. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.